Alright, so we got the console back together, which was a process to say the least. A lot of screwing and then unscrewing to adjust things, but we finally got it good enough. And Dad is now feeding wires up through the hole so that we can attach them in a minute to the console.
Alright, it's time to put our throttle cables back on and shift cable. And of course it's been a while since I took this apart, and now I got to remember how everything went. I knew I had the black piece, and I couldn't even remember what it was for. Then I realized right away that is for my wiring to go through, so that it's separated from my cable. Now remember, I only had one of those. And I've shifted this now by pushing the button in, so it's just the shift cable. This is my throttle. This is my shift cable, so throttle shift. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the nut off, put the cables back on. We'll remount it. Steering gear is already back wound in, snap back in. Pretty much verified that the motor is straight, the wheel is straight, so I'm pretty happy with that. Go ahead and get these cables back in, get this remounted back up. Then we'll actually get the console mounted, and I'll start redoing the wiring underneath, plugging everything back in. Hopefully then tomorrow, I guess. If I get that done, then I'll be pretty happy. I'm going to start thinking about how to mount this. I've got a piece of plywood here that was the mount for the bottom of the console. It's kind of rotten. I mean, I guess I could reuse it, but I think I'm going to use that as a pattern piece for this piece of Trex that I have. And I'm going to cut out a small piece of Trex, so I'll use that as the mount. My white came out okay. It's not like perfect or new, but it'll do. And I think what I'll do, the vinyl down here on the bottom isn't the best. And part of the problem is the underlying plywood. It's not completely rotten, but it doesn't have the best of integrity. Kind of got delaminated at the edge down at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is, instead of just doing a 90-degree L mount to the Trex, I'll have that on the inside. And what I'm going to do is get a 40-inch piece of aluminum strip, maybe inch and a half wide or something. Drill some mounting holes, and I'll bend a nice facing piece down here around the bottom, and I'll actually drill the front back through and mount it to the inside here as the mount. Should clean up this edge pretty well. I don't think there's much I can do about the fact that it got a little rumply. That was like that when I got it. But it'll help clean up that edge where the staples don't hold. And we'll mount it that way, and I think that'll clean the whole thing up. Definitely glad that I painted the gray with white. It looked horrible when it was gray. So I'm going to go ahead and call that okay for now. About the only thing I could do otherwise would have been to recover this entire plywood, which, given the amount of time that I have taken already this winter on this boat, I really want to get it done. Maybe we'll reserve that for a future kind of exercise, or maybe we'll just buy another console at some point. But coming together, getting done. Alright, back on and assembled. Pull a little bit of the excess cable through. Got this on here all nice the way it's supposed to be. And I can hear it shifting down at the motor when I do this, and got our steering all hooked back up. So the reason this boat was non-operable, if you remember back from the very first video I did, it was had a battery that had been on fire, burned up the cables. So now I've got a new set of cables. Gonna have a new set of batteries. I've cleaned this whole area up. Of course I did that. Haven't replaced the fuel filter quite yet. You can still see that's a little messy. Get a little bit of figuring out what we're going to do with our excess cables down here. Probably tighten this area up a little bit, but we're well on our way. In fact, get this boat done, we'll pull it out at some point here, and I'll actually be able to, hook the water back up to it. The tank has been cleaned out and dried it all out and cleaned it all up, so it's good to hold fuel again. I'll place the fuel filter on, and we're getting close to a water test here. I hope it's still February, so it's not really boating weather yet, but I'm getting more and more confident that by the time the weather really does get nice, we'll be on the water with this boat. I can't wait. So keep fingers crossed. Next, I'm going to go and begin. I guess I'll figure out how I'm going to mount this console, like I said a minute ago. Get this figured out, get it in position, then we'll begin plugging wires again. I'll put the boot back on the wiring coming through. I pre-drilled it once, it's already on, so it should be fairly easy once I'm ready to do that. Beyond to the next, center console goes in, and we are then ready to begin talking about doing the stuff in the stern, cleaning up seats. I think I've got a fairly substantial wiring job ahead of me to make sure that everything works. I am going to convert this boat. It only had one battery before that sat at the front of the well here. I'm going to convert this to a 2 battery with a switch. I like having dual batteries in a boat. I just don't like having single batteries. So we're going to do that, and they of course have their case, and we'll bolt them down. We'll strap them down. We'll seal them up. They'll be fine. I'm not worried about those batteries doing what the former battery did. So, onward. Alright, so I cut this piece off. I told you I actually had my other regular saber saw here, or circular saw rather, and I went ahead and just cut this piece off. It occurs to me that if I took that out with a jigsaw, that was really kind of a tough cut through here with a jigsaw, that I'm actually going to take this home. I'm going to put it on my bandsaw and cut it out. The bandsaw will go much quicker. It'll be nice and clean, follow the lines, and then that'll be a little easier way to do that. So I'm not going to video doing that, but I am going to take this home on my bandsaw and do it there. Alright, we're back here today, and I took my piece of trucks home on the bandsaw, cut it out. I'd say it looks pretty reasonably close to what this was. Might be a little bit of trimming to do here, I don't know, we'll see. Might be just fine the way it was. We're going to use that as a mount. A little something I did when I first got here, just because I got tired of these. My lights, my bow lights, running lights, not being mounted, and I was afraid I was going to drop and step on something else. I went ahead and mounted them. I tested this one on battery, worked just fine. I tested the starboard light, and it did not work. I did check the bulb was good, and what I ended up having to do, and I didn't film it because I just kind of got going with it, was I actually disassembled the light, pulled the spring out, and found that the wire that was soldered to the spring had come off, and there was some corrosion. Cleaned it up, resoldered the wire, retested it, now it's fine, it's good as new. It's one of those little projects that very often people say, oh, light doesn't work, oh, the bulb was good, we're just going to throw it away. Well, 5 minutes with a soldering iron and a little bit of solder, put it back together, it's as good as new. So it's amazing how simple things are when you actually get into them and look at them, and nobody ever wants to take the time to do that. But a simple little project like that, I'm sure I'll have many more of them before I'm done. So next I'm going to go ahead and mount my board, figure out where I'm going to go with this console exactly, and get it positioned. Once I get it in position where I want it, I'm going to screw it down. I think I'm going to raise, I bought some stainless steel L brackets. I think I'm going to raise it up a little tiny bit. I should have epoxied the bottom of the plywood on that console, but I didn't. So I'm going to raise it up and make sure water can't just sit in there. Probably be fine for a long time. Alright, I'll video more when that's done. Alright, well, as it is with almost any project, there's always some minor cutting and fitting you got to do. Trace another line on here. I lined it up. I found that my cut was just a little long. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up and try and fit it again.